Hello, welcome to Wisdom and Young Legend. And I have a young legend on with me today that I'm so excited about, as I usually am. But you know, each one has a unique aspect to themselves and to the universe. And we are here to find out what's behind all of the success that's out there. And today I am speaking with Dr. Vincent Adejumo. No, it's Adejumo, correct?
Yes, correct.
Okay, why don't you pronounce it for me so I get it correctly?
Vincent Adejumo.
Adejumo. Okay, great, great. So I have seen a lot of things about you in writing and on the internet and what have you, but I'm going to have you tell the audience exactly who you are and what do you do, and then we'll get into it.
Okay, well, who I am, I cannot be who I am without where I'm from. So I'm from Tampa, Florida. I grew up not too far from Middleton High School, not too far from Edison Elementary, not too far from Young Meadow Magnet School. So those are the three area schools I went to growing up. Also went to Lato High School, but I went there for 2 years. And then once Middleton came back as a high school, I was reinstated as a high school. I was able to go to Middleton High School. So yes, I'm from Tampa, Florida. I graduated from Middleton High School in 2004. From there, I went to Florida State University and I triple majored in business management, management information systems, human resource management. I also pledged Phi Beta Sigma, Fraternity Incorporated, while at Florida State. I also was a resident assistant at Florida State, also part of NAACP and some other student organizations while at Florida State. And but before even getting to Florida State, I would say that Middleton High School served as a platform, as a base, as far as what would be the trajectory in my future. While at Middleton High School, that is where I encountered most of the Black faculty, most Black faculty at that school. And we also had a very robust program as far as preparing me for what I would be doing in the future. And really what would be preparing me for what I would be doing now. And I didn't know it at the time, because at the time while at Middleton, my course curriculum was based in technology. I thought I was going to go, and indeed I went to Florida State and I majored in business management, management information systems, and human resource management. But my main major was management information systems. And while at Middleton, they had programs geared towards computer repair, computer software, those type of technological programs. And so Middleton prepared me in the immediate for that as far as to be successful at Florida State. But Middleton also prepared me for other things in life, prepared me for speaking. I was involved with Future Business Leaders of America while at Middleton High School. Encountered a lot of teachers, as I said before, who were Black, and they not only Black in skin, but Black also in their thought process, how they live their life, and how they train students. And so they really train students to succeed in the real world. And so while at Middleton developed my speaking skills, my interpersonal skills, I was also captain of the basketball team, so that helped me tremendously. So Middleton really laid the groundwork for what I would be doing in the future. So once I graduated from Florida State, I graduated during the recession. I graduated in 2008. I couldn't find a job, and I was triple major, couldn't find a job, and I was really angry at society, because I said, here I am, triple majoring, doing all the things that I needed to do, or that I was told to do in order to succeed in life. And yet still I can't find a job. I have no money. All of my peers, many of who do not look like me, are finding jobs, but I'm not finding jobs. And so it was very frustrating. So But it was actually a great period for me because it really taught me, first of all, to be humble, and second of all, patience. And so during that time period of not having a job in my field, I did little odds and ends work to just for survival. So I did things such as digging ditches and cleaning under boats, directing cars at the car auction. I did that with a buddy of mine. And so we did that. We graduated. We couldn't find jobs. So that's what we did. We go up to temporary job agency, and just get in line at 2 a.m., 3 a.m. With the rest of society. And we did that for a couple of months until I was able to finally get something temporary with Citibank. I only lasted at Citibank for 3 weeks. They fired me. So that was like, man, like I can't win for nothing. And so, but the same day I got fired was the same day I got hired at Middleton High School, my old alma mater, my high school alma mater. So they remembered me. They hired me in the guidance department. And so I did that for a couple of months. And then from there, I procured my first salaried job with Strayer University. And so I moved to Atlanta. I was in Atlanta for a couple of months. And then they moved me to Augusta, Georgia. And Augusta, Georgia was, it's Augusta, Georgia, right? It's where
Careful. I grew up 45 minutes from there.
Okay.
I like the backwoods of Georgia. Thank you very much.
Okay. Well, one thing I appreciate about being in Augusta, and really at Strayer, in corporate America in general, was that I was, a lot of things that I experienced, you're coming out, you're young, 22, 23, you don't really know a lot about the world, right? You don't know a lot about society until you actually get in there. And so even though I had that experience the previous year with not having a salary job in my field, working at Strayer really opened my eyes to a lot of things, how society works, the idea of exploitation. Before that, that was just a word to me that really meant nothing to me, right? It really didn't mean anything, exploitation, okay, whatever. But working at a place like Strayer, not saying that it was necessarily a bad experience, but it's just one of those things what corporations, are built on, which is to capitalize, right? To capitalize not only on labor, but also to capitalize on whatever is going on in the market. So Strayer is a for-profit college, and at that time, there was a lot of things going on, a lot of attention to things in the for-profit college industry, such as student loans, accreditation, all those types of things. And while at Strayer, I was served in various positions. And the thing about it was, what I noticed is that a lot of the marketing was targeted towards Black and Brown communities, right? And I guess the thought process, or at least the thought process I got from some of the higher ups, was that, these people are the ones who are getting the federal financial aid funding. And so it would be easier to procure money from them because they're getting money from the government. So you have this whole industry within the industry, right? Within the higher education industry, you have this capitalization industry of student loans. And so what happens is that
comes to mind to me is predator.
Yeah, it is. It's very predatory. It's very exploitative. And it's predatory. And I use the word exploitative as well because, you so often, we're told the American dream, especially now in the post-industrial era, that we have to go to college in order to procure a good life. We have to go to college. We have whatever, by any means necessary, even if it means mortgaging your future in student loans. And so what I realized while working at Strayer University, trying to convince students to take out $60,000, $70,000 loans for a 2-year degree, it really started to weigh on my mental, right? It really started to weigh on my mental because, here I am, fresh out of college, and I didn't have much in student loans, maybe like 2,000 at that time. And I'm trying to convince someone younger than me to take out all this money for a 2-year or less degree, and a lot of times, a lot of those students end up not completing their degree. So now, if you don't complete your degree, you're on the clock for those loans. So I got the idea. So while working at Strayer, I started to get the idea, that I needed to do something different, right? I need to do something where I'm actually helping people. I'm actually using my knowledge, more of my knowledge base, to create change. So I got the idea. So what happened was that I ended up getting my first master's from Strayer. They paid 90% of it. And I got my master's degree. It was accredited, thank God, in public administration. And then, so 3 months after I graduated from Strayer, while I was working on my master's, I also was working 60 hours a week, and I also was studying for the GRE because I knew that I wanted to eventually do something different. I thought, well, maybe I should go and get my PhD. So I graduated from Strayer. 3 months later, I submitted my resignation from Strayer. But as I said before, while I was working on my PhD, my master's in public administration and working, I studied for the GRE. I made just enough to procure acceptance into the University of Florida and also FSU. I got accepted into FSU for their PhD in public administration, and then I got accepted into UF for their PhD in political science. So I chose the UF for political science because my thought process was that I already had a master's in public administration, and I wanted to do something a little bit more theoretical in the social sciences, but still within the realm of politics. So political science was something that spoke to me. And at the time, President Obama was still president, so that made an impression on me as well, as far as politics and how politics and money go hand in hand. So and also my sister was at University of Florida as well for her master's in engineering. So I ended up coming to University of Florida in 2011. So I submitted my resignation in February from Strayer. I was then came down to Gainesville in June, and so I started my PhD. And while at University of Florida, again, just a lot of things that I went through previously helped inform, the way I would move at the University of Florida as far as with my education, and also playing a little bit of politics too. But while at the University of Florida, that's where I really, really, really began to really open up to the idea of teaching, because my original thought process to pursue my PhD in political science, I thought maybe I would get my PhD and then maybe go work for the government or something like that, be a bureaucrat. But then, as I moved through the political science program, while at University of Florida, I became president of the Black Graduate Student Organization. I also was involved with this mentoring program in the community in Gainesville. And so through those channels, and also I became involved, when I came in 2011, I also became involved in the African American Studies program. So I was a graduate assistant for the African American Studies program. And then in 2013, when we got the major, which came from protests, if you see the movie Dear White People at the end, you will see the blackface incident that took place at the University of Florida in 2012. And there actually was a previous blackface incident before that in 2011. So it was successive things that happened at UF that led to the major. So I taught the first online class offered at the University of Florida in African American Studies. So the Intro to African American Studies program, or Intro to African American Studies course. I taught that, and I developed it for online. I first began teaching that in the summer of 2013. Even though I wasn't trained in African American Studies, the thing is that being at a predominantly white institution, sometimes in the cultural studies, I don't know. It's really an interesting thing, but I thank God for the opportunity. And so I was able to procure that opportunity. And so from there, I taught that class. I moved through my program. I finished up the PhD in political science. And once I finished that, I was offered a job as a lecturer of African American Studies. I took that job in 2015, my first year teaching, 2015, 2016. I was selected as the Professor of the Year for the Black Student Union. And then for the 2017, 2018 school year, I was selected by the College of Liberal Arts and Sciences as the Professor and Advisor of the Year. And then this past summer 2019, I was promoted to senior lecturer. So yeah, so it's that's just the short end of it, honestly.
The short end of it. There's nothing short about that. I was just listening to you and I went, oh my God, I have a list this long of the things I want to talk to you, but do I interrupt you? Because I didn't want to stop your train of thought. So we got it all out there.
Yeah.
At this point, we're going to take a little break. And then I'm going to come back and ask you the questions I want to ask you, because you just unloaded a lot.
Thank you. Okay.
All right. Back in a second. Okay. We just gonna keep going. Okay. All right. So welcome back. And I am speaking with Dr. Vincent Adéjumò. And man, before the break, he told us exactly why I'm so impressed with him. And I know that there's a lot of wisdom and energy there. You know, part of the premise for the whole show is that the young person has the energy. You heard that. That's a given. There's a lot of energy there. And they have the strength to cut a path, say through the forest. But the old person knows the way. And the premise of this is that when you have the two together, you have an unstoppable force. Now, originally I thought about having two people in the same industry talking about the same thing, one from an older perspective, one from a younger perspective. But I have come across a number of young people that I truly believe that have absorbed the wisdom of the elders and combined it with the strength that they have of their youth, and they're rocking and rolling. And that's why I'm calling them the young legends, because that's what you are. Now I want to unfold, how did you get here? Now you told us all about what you've done, but you mentioned things like Middleton and Black people being there, and they were teaching from a Black perspective. I want to know more about that, but not at this point. First, I want to know, what did Mama say? And what did Daddy say?
Oh man, well, it's interesting. My mom, my mom, my dad, my stepmom, my grandmother, both of my grandmother and my grandmother, both my grandmothers, you know, they were the linchpin in everything at different points, at different touch points in my life, but all worked together to bring me to this point. And the thing that I love about my parents and my grandparents, my stepmom's mother, she passed away. But the thing I love about them is that they were always an encouraging voice, right? It never was anything negative as far as academics, and as far as just, you know, making sure that I kept a positive attitude. You know, you go through things in life, whether you are a child, whether you are an adolescent, whether you're an adult. But my parents have always kept me focused on whatever the goal is, right? And they allowed me to set what the goal is, right? They never said, well, you need to do this, you need to do that. No, it was always, okay, you know, this is what we think, but at the same time, we're going to give you the space to figure it out, right? We're going to give you the space to to be adult about it, you know, as when I was a child. And that was very important because I think a lot of times, you know, these days, you know, you have parents that are very hovering and over, and sometimes a child might not go a way in which the parents think they should go, right? And but the thing about my parents was that as long as it's positive, as long as it's something contributing to society, that's what they were more interested in. That was the main thing, and also interested in just my interpersonal skills, my personal development, right? My mom, you know, certain words I couldn't say around my mom, right? Because, you know, it just, you know, that's mom, right? And the same thing with my dad and my stepmom and my grandparents. And so first of all, just maintaining that deference for them was very important for me because as I began to go through life and, you know, you procure this position and that position, having deference for whatever authority is in place, that's a very important thing to do. And so that's rule number one. And, you know, it's just so many different touch points between my parents, just making sure that I was, you know, first and foremost, my most basic of needs were taken care of, was food on the table, clothes, water, making sure that, you know, wasn't overly flashy. And I think the one thing that my parents instilled was a sense of leadership, a sense of the idea that, listen, you know, even though we grew up in an area, we're growing up in an area that's not, or society determines is not the best. You know, sometimes what society determines was not the best, sometimes it is the best, right? Sometimes it is the best. Sometimes hard times be some of the best times, right?
Yeah.
Because that is where you, you know, you find a lot about yourself, right? You develop a lot of the necessary skills. So having that guidance from my parents on how to guide those waters when they arise was very important. And you know, so that's what I would say. It's so many things, but that's what I would say. The main thing from my parents was that, you know, so just for example, you know, growing up in the 90s, a black child in the 90s, especially a black male in the 90s, wanting the propensity to want to pull your pants all the way down to your buttocks, right? My parents didn't tolerate that. You know, they did not tolerate that because, you know, and they explained why. You know, they explained that, you know, when you develop into a young man and develop into a young, respectable young man, you're not respecting yourself when you do those behaviors. And yes, you might want to do those behaviors because you see the other boys doing it. But at the same time, you have to recognize is that, you know, even though you look like them, your psychology, the makeup of your psychology is going to be different because what we are instilling in you. And so that was the main thing that, you know, my parents throughout my life, you know, and even today, you know, I might stray off the narrow path, and, you know, they, you know, just guide me back, you know, just like a shepherd guiding the sheep with the rod, right? And so I think that's the most important thing with my parents.
So what are some defining moments in your life? Let me tell you why I asked that.
Okay.
When the very first memory that I have, and I tell this quite often, is crawling under my grandmother's bed. It was an iron bed, and pulling out an old cigar box, and it happened to be a Have a Tampa cigar box. I had no idea what a Have a Tampa was,
You're right.
but it had old letters, old photographs, a lock of her sister's hair, and I was totally fascinated with that. And in 11th grade, I was introduced to art. And right now I have about 10 or 15 pieces that I drew, painted, whatever, all in 1 year because I was just totally fascinated. Got to college. I won't tell you what happened. I wanted to learn how to make an apple look like an apple, and they put artistically unclothed people in front of me. And it was like, what am I to do with this?
Right.
So, you know, one turned me in a path and the other turned me away.
Right.
But the one that I kept was the crawling under my grandmother's bed. That is who I am today. I love old photographs, old stories, old letters, old anything that I can unravel and see what the mystery of them are and connect it to the future and the relevance of today, you know. So those were defining moments for me as a little person. So
Right.
what was little Vincent really like? Five
Well,
years.
I think a defining moment in my childhood and adolescence. Two things. Um, Actually, yeah, three things. When I was a child, I remember, the Boys and Girls Club. That's where we went for after school programs, and at that point, I had never really interacted other than at the school. I had never really interacted with white adults, right? And at the Boys and Girls Club, there was a volunteer there. He had this program. It was a white guy. His name was Chuck. And this program he had was called Second Step. And I would say that was very defining for my childhood because, being around Chuck, it really allowed me to really say what I wanted to say and just be comfortable in my skin, right? And that was the first time I ever felt that way around a white adult, right? And so this is around the time, I was around 8, 9 years old. So this is around the time where I really started to come into my own and started to understand race a little bit more and what that meant. And so having someone like Chuck around, going through his Second Step program, a program where he taught us different things, such as like drunk driving, why you shouldn't drink and drive, and those type of things. It was an enrichment program, and that really made an impression on me as far as the things that he was teaching at the Boys and Girls Club at that time. And also at the Boys and Girls Club, in addition to that, the staff at the Boys and Girls Club was also all Black, so that kind of helped me too. In helping me understand certain things about myself and
Okay, stop right there, because you said this before when you were talking about Middleton, that
Mm-hmm.
the teachers were Black and they thought Black.
Yes.
What does that mean?
What it means is that, when you're in a situation, no matter who you are, and your paycheck depends on how you respond to the situation, right? When your paycheck depends on that, you have some people, and now I'm going to limit it down to the Black community. You have some people who are more political in the way they go about things, and sometimes that is great, but sometimes you need to have a certain amount of genuineness and truthfulness in what you are trying to convey. And so at Middleton and at the Boys and Girls Club first, and then at Middleton, what I found as far as working with those people and those people working with me is that there was always genuineness. There was always truthfulness about the world we live in. There was never a time in which those people did not shy away from something as serious such as race, as far as talking about that, what that means for a young Black child, what that means for a young Black male, even a young Black female, what that means for all of us, and how society perceives us. And so that was very, very relevant. And even Chuck, to a degree, also, talked about those things to us as well, and what that meant for not only just our day-to-day goings, but also our day-to-day survival, right? Yeah. And so having that understanding from a historical context from those Black folk at the Boys and Girls Club and also at the school, but also from a more practical standpoint and how that applies to our lives today, I think that makes a bit of difference versus someone who may not be as truthful, who may be Black but not as truthful. I think it could really do a lot of, from my experience, I think it could really do a lot of damage. Especially I call it almost, especially if you have Black teachers, but they're not willing to to bring truth to whatever the situation is, right? I think that's almost as dangerous as because the thing about it is, as a child, children, we understand you have the white teacher, you have the Black teacher, right? You have a Hispanic teacher, you have, so you understand these types of things. And so when that Black child goes to a Black teacher, they expect that Black teacher is going to understand them from a certain perspective and to talk to them in a certain perspective, right? But when that Black teacher does not do that, it could almost be as detrimental as anything else in the school system. And I call them school to prison pipeline conductors, right? And so this is the thing that we really, and the thing about it is that Black person or teacher or whomever who may not be as truthful in their approach, it might not be no fault of their own, because maybe they wasn't trained to be truthful, right? Maybe they grew up in a situation or went to a college or school, whomever, or what have you, where they didn't have the environment that I had, right? Where you were surrounded by positive Black people, whether it's the parents, whether it was the staff at the Boys and Girls Club, or whether it was the teachers at the school, positive people, positive reinforcements of behavior from people who look like you, right? Yeah. So maybe they didn't, so I don't necessarily blame them or belabor them, but I'm just saying this is the situation that we are faced with now. So I'm not saying a majority of Black teachers are like this. I'm not saying that. No. But what I am saying is that, that those who may not be as truthful or in their approach, they might not have the knowledge to be truthful. And that can also...
And also, what you made me realize is I just witnessed something just recently, that it's not even so much knowledge as it is awareness in at least one particular case. I saw a young Black performer come into a room of little kids. And she walked up to one person who happened to be, I'd say, biracial. Okay. And she asked that person's name, and the name was given, and she said how pretty the name was. It was a positive experience between that person and this little girl.
Right.
She said hello to some other little girls, and then she got to a little boy, and she said hello to him and extended her hand to shake his hand. Now, she probably won't even remember this.
Right.
But the message that she sent to the three psyches, grouping them together, was totally different.
Right.
And I remarked to the person next to me, I said, I'm not happy about that, right? If she's going to shake little people's hands, shake all of their hands.
Right. Exactly.
So sometimes we're not aware of the impact that we're having on a day-to-day basis.
Right. And that's the thing about societal norms, right? What is traditionally termed as norm. Sometimes we have to, as you say, we have to be aware that, okay, even though this may be the norm, we have to be aware that we have to get away from that in order to make sure that we are shifting the thought process of this in order to inspire change.
Right.
And the thing about it is that some people just aren't, some people on all sides want to keep the status quo because it benefits them to keep the status quo.
And it's comfortable and safe.
Right.
People are afraid of change. They get out of their comfort zone, and then they're afraid of failing or being exposed for lack of wisdom or whatever it is that they're afraid of. I mean, that's just real.
Right.
So there's something else I want to know. With all of your drive, I mean, you just seem to be all out there going for it. Just make it happen. That's
that's the motto.
You want to do something, just make it happen. I can just see that in you. So when you have parents that are guiding you,
Mm-hmm.
loving, and that you totally respect, obviously.
Mm-hmm.
What were your breakout moments? How did you break that bond without breaking the relationship?
Mm, that's a good question. Um, I would say this. My father, he's from Nigeria. So, a lot of Nigerians have this idea that their children should grow up to be doctors and this and that, medical doctors specifically, and lawyers and that type of thing. And and initially, uh, you know, my father, he thought, since I was taking up computer technology in high school, his thought process was that, well, maybe go to school and be a computer engineer, right? So I went to the first day at Florida State, we was in orientation, and I remember asking the advisor about math because I just for the life of me was scared of math. Like I had to in fact take remedial math when I first went to Florida State. My sister's the one with the math. My sister's an engineer, but that didn't befall on me. So the thing about it is that after that orientation, I told my father, I said, look, I don't think computer engineering is for me. So he wasn't mad or upset or anything. We just had a conversation, and then that's when he suggested, okay, well maybe management information systems, which is more so in the business realm and there's less math, maybe that would be the thing for you. So I looked that up and I was like, okay, I think I could do something like this. So, but initially having that conversation, because this is a man that I respected so much, right? And I just wanted to do whatever I needed to do to please him. I really had anxiety broaching that conversation, right? Really had anxiety doing that, but doing that and in my mind, I thought that if I did this, I would upset him and this and that. But the fact that he wasn't upset and he was supportive and encouraging really made a difference, huge difference for me in my development and being more comfortable, as far as talking with my father and my parents in general, as I grew into a young man and experiencing having adult experiences. So I definitely would say that would be a situation where I kind of had to make up my own mind as far as what I want to do, but then my parents still being there to support that was an important thing.
So my next question is, full disclosure, has a personal benefit. The reason that I know about you is because of the legacy wall that I did at Edison Elementary.
Mm-hmm.
And you came to my attention because I asked the question, who attended the school that's rocking and rolling? And your name surfaced quickly. And when I contact you, you responded immediately.
Mm-hmm.
And for that reason, you got a prominent space on the Edison Elementary legacy wall, which is bigger than life, right there as you walk in the door. And I talk about you quite often because one of the things that I did was write a script for those young people to portray your lives on stage. And I told them that the people that they were talking about were real and that some of them were in the audience. And I asked you all to stand up. And when you gave your name, what I had been fearful of just went away. I was concerned that if all of these young people didn't have all of the people that they were portraying in the audience, that they would be upset, because I knew that there were 3 of you there, but not all of you. But when you said your name, the whole stage erupted into absolute joy, because they had been practicing your name for a month.
Yeah.
I was able to say to them that the only difference between them and you was a matter of time, because you were there. You were there, and to let them know that you were real.
Yes.
And so from a personal point of view, I want to know, what was that experience like for you?
Oh man, it was exhilarating. You know, coming to back because I hadn't been in that auditorium maybe since I was in elementary school, to be honest. And to come back to Essence, now I had been on the campus, you know, a few times after I left, after I graduated from Edison. But to be back on that campus, and you know, and to see the development that you have done, and also Miss Jeanette, you know, it really, really, and then to have my name called on that stage, I'm like, wow, like, you know, I never thought in a million years coming back to this place that something like this would be done for me in general. You know, I never imagined it. And so when it happened, it was the greatest thing in the world. And I often tell my friends, out of all the things I have done so far, you know, this is by far the best thing as far as recognition and just being able to actually be there. Because typically, when you give flowers to people, you give flowers to people when they're dead, right? And so, and then if you do give flowers to them, you know, they're much older. You know, typically it doesn't happen to people in their 30s.
Mm-hmm.
So, so, you know, so having that experience, you know, it was very great. And also it motivated me to want to do more, you know, because I started to realize that, man, I could be doing so much more. So I actually just started a nonprofit called Olu Institute of Learning. And I'm actually in the process of getting 501c3 status for it. And so all of that.
Wait. Are you saying that experience motivated you to do that?
Yeah, I got the articles of incorporation back in June for Olu Institute of Learning, and so I am now registered in the government database for contracts and grants, and so now I am in the process of completing for the 501c3 status. So once all those things come into fold, then I will be able. I mean, of course I can now, obviously, but I want things to be done right. You see, and so once those things come into play, then you know, we could begin the process of putting into action what I've been about my whole life, really, and I just didn't know it at the time at various points. But what I want to do is actually have Afrocentric enrichment programs, for about fourth to sixth graders, maybe eighth graders, and so so I'm actually putting together some curriculums now, you know, getting some feedback, and so hopefully by next summer, you know, we could be able to put that into action. So me being on that wall, being recognized, that was the fire that lit me to just go ahead and, because it's something I had been thinking about for a while, but I said, you know what, I just need to go ahead and do it. So, you know, I actually put some things on the back burner this summer so I could strictly work on that and building that, you know, because like I said, I want to make sure it's done right. So.
Now, let me tell you what you just said to me. When I first wrote my first book, I went to Felicia Winton, who at the time owned the only Black bookstore in Tampa. And she was quite well known. You probably remember her yourself. And I asked her what to do. And in that hour-long conversation, she ended with, Ersula, it's not how many lives you affect, but that you affect lives. And every time someone says something to me that gives some indication that I've had an impact on their life, I think of her. She will live forever because of that one statement. And you're saying that, I'm done.
It's true.
I know what you can do, and when you put your mind to it, you've already proven that it's gonna be off the chain. So I want to be on your Google alert list and your
Yeah.
newspaper clipping list. So I'm a fan.
Thank you, thank you. Yeah, you really and also, like I said, Miss Jeanette too, really inspired me to just go ahead and, like I said, I had been thinking about it, but seeing and then too, because after going to the ceremony, I actually came by Edison. I came by a couple of times. One time I bought them all pizza, and we just sat and ate and talked about life, and I taught them some things about investing, and even their little fifth grade mind, when I put it in terms that they understood, they started to understand. And see, this is the thing and this is why I'm so passionate about the Afrocentric model, because not just in the curriculum, but it's who is teaching and how you convey the information. And the thing about it is, some of those boys that I was working with, some of them, they talking to the teacher, they say, yeah, they in the day-to-day learnings of the class, they might be uninterested. But then when I came and started talking to them about investing and things I do as far as investments and real estate and those type of things, they perk up. They perk up and they want to learn more. And so this is the thing that I want to bring to the forefront to people. Because public education is public education, but we as a community have to start developing official apparatuses, because you're not going to take over the public education system. You're just not. But if you develop robust apparatuses, the things that you're doing, the things that other people are doing in the community, and we begin to work together to pull our resources to support these young people, and then I think that's where the true change, the true sausage of the change is made, right? And so I'm very passionate about it. I teach a course at UF called Black Wall Street, and so and also mentoring at rescue. So a lot of those principles, what I teach, is also help inspire me. But in teaching those classes, especially the Black Wall Street class, the principles of pooling resources together. It first starts with a psychological shift in having love for ourselves, right? And I think that's what's missing a lot today in our community. Young people, a lot of people, you get on the social media and, everything that's done is for likes. Everything that's done is for, I call it clout chasing. Everything is done to clout chase. You have people, some of the students, they'll say they at a community service event, they'll take a selfie of them, maybe passing out some canned goods, and then in 10 minutes they go home. I'm like, you can't build community. You can't build a vibrant community with that type of mentality if all you're trying to do is clout chase. You have to really get in there, study the community, study what's going on, and then be able to put the things in action. And even though you may not have the necessary tools right now at your disposal, you still can be a witness, and you still can be a support to people who are already doing it. And then when you're able to ready to step out on your own, then you can go ahead and begin the work to do the things that we need to do to solve the problems of our community. So,
wow. Well, one of the questions I was going to ask is what's next for the future, but you just answered that, unless there's something else.
Well, like I said, what I'm immediately focusing my energies on now is the Odom Institute of Learning. As I said before, focusing on bringing Afrocentric education and enrichment programs to the forefront of our communities. So that's the immediate energies. As I said before, I just got promoted to Senior Lecturer of African American Studies at the University of Florida. So continuing to develop courses that are, again, Afrocentric in nature. And the courses that I teach, in, as I said before, Black Wall Street, Mentoring at Rescue. I teach a course on the TV show The Wire. I teach Intro to African American Studies. Also teach a read-write course for incoming freshmen. I just completed that course as well. And also teach Black masculinity. So the courses that I teach, the overall perspective that I try to give to students is to think about institutions, right? Institutions and how society, different parts of society, interact with those institutions, and how institutions interact with society, right? And so just continuing to develop that. I'm also am a real estate investor. So just, I have a couple properties that I do and that I rent out. So just continuing to kind of have my hand in different pots, because I do believe in multiple streams of income. I always encourage my students, of course, when you're starting out, you have to do what you have to do. But as you move forward in life, you realize that, if you have just one source of income, you become dependent on that income. And then therefore you become dependent upon the people who are providing you that income. And so then what happens is that all of your energies and attentions is to devote it to just satisfy those people who are providing you that one income. And so what you have to do, if you want to expand your mindset and live a certain lifestyle, you have to have multiple streams. And especially in this day and age, with these student loans, oh my goodness. I mean, I can't tell you the amount of students that I come in contact with. They don't even understand the difference between principal and interest. On a student loan, they just took out $50,000, and they don't understand the difference between principal and interest.
Wow.
And then they wonder, when you get out of school, by the time you get out of school and 5 years, 10 years you're working, you done piled up $20,000, $30,000 in interest, right? And so just bringing those things to attention. I also do public speaking as well. So I have some events lined up for the fall. So doing public speaking, I do that as well. So just those different things, just focusing my energies on, and whatever other opportunities arise, if I can do it, if I can help it, if I can lend my voice in any way, shape, or form, that's pretty much, all for the benefit of our people. That's what I'm concerned with the most, our people. How can we get our people to elevate to the next level, as far as psychologically, as far as economically, socially, and even to a degree spiritually as well. So all those different things I'm most interested in.
Well, I'm most interested in what you're doing, and we could talk all day, but I think we probably should let them know, if our audience wants to support the many things that you're doing, how best should they reach you?
Okay, they can reach me. I'll give my email address is D and then ADEJUMO3, the number 3, at gmail.com. And so once the Olu Institute of Learning, once we have the 501c3 status, then we're going to launch a website, and also we'll have opportunity if people want to give. We'll have that available, and so when people do give, they'll also make sure that they get a receipt so that they can file that on their taxes, because 501c3 you can do that. And so like I said before, we want to make sure we do everything the right way, and so that would be the best way. That would be the best way.
So with that being said, when you have that website, mm-hmm. and you conduct your first public service announcement, send me the clip, yes. and we'll add it to this episode.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you.
All right.
Yes.
So once again, thank you so much. I have totally enjoyed getting to know you and buying into these future things that you're going to do. I mean, I'm just excited about seeing where you take all of this. And thank you for your time and your wisdom and your energy. So
thank you. Appreciate it. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. And to my audience, thank you. And just as I said, what a wonderful person. And wit, wisdom, and energy all wrapped up in one. So with that, have a great day and see you next time.